Okay, again, welcome back as we move on towards the next portion of our video demonstration. In review, we have completed the windows and the doors for this part of the building, and we've also put a base underneath the porch. So now we need to complete a little bit more of the complicated parts of the drawings, and so we're going to go through them in some detail here, but as we look at the completed drawing, you can see there's a lot going on here and more than just the base. So we're going to talk about that in much more detail here. So as we move forward, what we want to do is, starting with the porch, we're going to build upward and then put the roof on. So to start with that, we're going to go ahead and put the posts on top of the porch and then extend them up. And so in doing that, we'll also need to refer back to our elevation drawings because they best show the information about the porch and its roof. Either one, but I think the side view might be just a bit better. All right, so we're going to go ahead and place that. Now, one of the things I want you to observe is if you look at the floor plan, the posts that support the roof are darkened in their post shade, and they're at the very corner of the porch. So we now know where they're at. Let's go ahead and mark them, and then we'll project upward. So we don't have to necessarily measure them. We do have to mark them. So by extending the lines up, and I'm going to share with you at this point, we're going to start covering up some of the drawings that we've already done. That's why we do this in a mock-up, so that the stuff that we've already drawn, we can kind of monkey around with a little bit, because there's kind of a layering aspect of three-dimensional drawings. So now this portion of the drawing is actually going to cover part of the drawing that we've already done. So with that, I'm going to project up, and I'll look at my elevation to find how far that goes up. So I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to measure it from the porch, from the top of the porch floor to the underside of the porch roof eave at the fascia. So I'm going to mark that. It looks like it's at 7'6". We're going to say 7'6", just as a way of kind of giving ourselves some sort of reference point. So from the point, let's start with the center one here. We're going to go 7'6" up, 6, 7. Okay, and I got the 6 there. Okay, so that mark right there represents the height of that fascia. So now we're going to do the same thing on each of these other posts. So that point is there. This point stops back here. We're going to erase in just a minute. It's going to come across. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to come up on those corners from the floor plan upward until we get to that 7'6" point. Okay, so go ahead and make that a little bit more substantial so you can see it. Keep that light. Keep that light. There we go. There we go. All right. So we have two porch elements that are coming up from the corners. How high? They go up at least on the outside eave condition, 7'6". So if I measure on this side again, just to keep myself in check, I'm going to measure, and I've got 7 foot. Let me double check. Yep, 7 foot goes to right there, and oops, right here. Yep, that's right. And that's what we want. We want 7'6", and it's perfect. Same thing here. We check it again, 7 foot, and it goes to here, and that's perfect also. So our lines are going up to the right location. So because as we look at the front elevation, we notice that this height and this height are the same. So by projecting at that 45-degree angle, we can find that. Now, we have the tops of the posts, and they're marked. Now let's work with the roof. So what we've noticed on the roof is that as we look at the side view of this roof structure, it has looks like about an 8-inch fascia, which is the eave. Okay, so that distance here from here to where the roof begins, from the bottom of the eave to where the roof begins, it's about 8 inches. So we're going to extend the fascia up about 8 inches. So we go from there and we go to there, double checking from there to there. That's good. So I'm bringing that fascia out. It's going to line up with the front corner. I'm going to erase just a couple lines here because I think they're starting to get a little confusing. And you can see them better when I do that. I'll hold on this stuff and just lighten it up just a bit because it's mostly going to disappear. Even though I put all that time into making them look so good, it's just the way it goes sometimes. That's how we do things here. Okay, so there's that fascia. And the other one has to line up so it comes over to this side right here. And it projects itself back. And we're going to line up the top of it, the 8 inches there, should line up with the 8 inches on this side. So we're kind of creating it horizontally. Then we're going to bring it up to the peak in just a minute. But we have to kind of find our corners. The same way we had to find our corners on the bigger roof, we have to do the same thing here. It's a little fussy, but what we have to do. So what we're doing here is we found the lower corner, just like we found the lower corners of all points. This one, this one, this one, and this one. We're adding in the thickness of the fascia. I'm going to erase that again because, again, I think there's just too many lines and they get a little confusing. Okay, so I'm going to draw that in. This is one side. I'll kind of keep it light on that one. And this is the other one, but we can make this side, since it's exposed, we can make it a bit thicker. Okay, so now we have this side and this side of the roof, which is basically, we've drawn this one and this one. So now we're going up to the middle. So where is the middle? Well, we've seen in our earlier exercise, if we do the crisscross, it'll get us there. And we can use that same technique here also. So, or we could just measure. Let's just measure. The form is complicated enough. I don't want to add in a whole bunch of extra crisscross lines because it might get more confusing. So I marked the middle, the distance between this point and this point, marked it in the middle. And I'm going to do the same thing here. So that one is there. Make sure I got the right point. There to there. And there's our middle. Okay. So, and if they line up, yes, they line up. Good. So now, there's a couple tricks here. One is we can simply measure from the top of the fascia to the peak, and I can do that real quick here. I'm just going to take it off the top of the patio. I'm just the top of the porch. You're going to measure from the floor of the porch to the peak. And it looks like it's just right about 10 foot even. So I'm going to draw a vertical line through my center point. And I'm going to measure up. Remember, all our measurements are from the outside line here. And we're going to go up 10 feet. So 10 feet. goes to there. Now I'm going to share with you that these drawings are going to look a little funny. That's just what happens sometimes. You plot them out and they should work pretty darn good, and they're just a little bit off because of imperfections or imprecisions that we have. And so, okay, there we go. Clean up this line a bit here. Okay. Draw that line up till it gets to the center point. Do the same thing here and goes to there. Oops, lost my line here. Let me double check. I want that to be just a bit more. Now, if you happen to have an adjustable triangle like this one, what we can do is we can check our lines. That line's almost there. Yeah, that's better. Okay, we can check our lines to try to compare, and we're very close to this slope for this slope. And if I flip this thing to the other side, this line, I'm going to pull it over here. It's not in the Pier 90. I'm going to bring it over here, and it's very close to this line. Now, why is that important? It's a little bit of a test. When we did our elevations, we said this is a 45-degree angle. Let's see if I can get a piece of paper underneath this so you can see it a little better. When you did your elevations, you said that, or we said that this is a 45-degree angle and that's a 45-degree angle. And we said that's a 45-degree angle and that's 40. So everything's a 45. We made it simple that way. So by doing that, if that is indeed true, this angle, and this angle should be the same, as well as this one. So that makes sense. Same thing, this angle, this angle, this angle, and this angle, all 45s just projected at a slightly off angle, but they should still match up. So I've got this angle set. Got to get back over here, get it lined up. Okay, and see it comes very close to this one, so we're doing good. There's our line. We're going to do the same thing here. Bring it to the front, and you'll see where it goes in just a minute. We're going to take it a little further. Okay, then on this side, we're going to line it up, and we're going to come across here, and there it is. There's the line. We're going to do the same thing here. Okay, now, if we've done them right, they will line up, and they do, the same as those lines line up. So this ridge line aligns with this, not the same height or elevation, but it's in the same path, the same angle. Everything's working out well. So this one aligns with this one aligns with this one, and this one aligns with this one. So the only thing is, my lines are a little messy. I got to go back through and make sure that they're clean. So I'm going to do that right now as we're moving forward with this. And we do have to add some thickness. We forgot to do that. So the front of this fascia has a thickness. We saw that right here. That thickness and that thickness need to be represented. So we're going to go ahead, following the same line as provided in the previous. Now you could measure and mark it. I'm using a shortcut because my adjustable triangle gets me there. A bit faster, and so now that is what our front fascia looks like. Now I'm going to tell you again, they're not going to look the same because of that distortion that occurs. This side is going to look fatter than this side. And we're going to come back up to the roof and spruce him up a little bit, and you'll see same thing occurs there. But so at this point, we've got our roof. I'm going to take just a minute and clean up some of the lines, and so we can see things just a little better. And so when you look at the example that I'm working on here, you'll see it and you'll say, okay, that makes sense. I see what we have. Okay, so now we did have to erase a little bit of our window. I'm going to come back in and put those lines in because they do show back up. Okay. That goes there, and my trim on the door goes there. So anyway, there's lots of things going on here. Now, hopefully, you can see this post holding up this fascia. Let's see if we can erase that line just a bit. There we go. That fascia. This line holding up this eave, or this fascia, and this eave extending back. You don't see this one on that side, but now you can start to see that's that porch structure in its posts and in its roof. And as I was showing in a previous illustration, the elements on the roof here are provided for us here, and we can see the angles that are provided. Now, when I put my roof, I put in some lines to indicate some of the angles and or some of the roof material so that it would stand out and it's not just this big plane, but we'll look at that a little bit later as we get closer to the end of the video. All right, so far we've got the porch. We've got the porch supports, the posts. We can see the door beyond. We can see the window beyond. We have the porch base. Now we get to put in the stairs. The steps can be a little funny, so we're going to walk through that and get that going right now. So the first thing that we want to do is understand that because these lines are set up that vertical stay vertical and horizontal lines that are 90 degrees or parallel with each other are projecting at a 45. Some people get a little messed up and they try to show the stairs with a 90 degree, and it doesn't work that way. So please pay attention as I build this, and hopefully you'll see how it comes together. So we're not going to use the illustration below because it actually is stepping down and it can create some confusion. But we do know after drawing the elevations how big everything is, and it's pretty easy to replicate that information. So the first thing we need to know is what is the total distance out, and I believe I'm going to measure it here using the floor plan below, and it looks like it's about 40, maybe 44. Double check that one more time. Yeah, I'm going to say about 44 inches out. So that would make sense. How big are the stairs? The stairs are from our elevation study. The stairs have a 7-inch riser and an 11-inch run or 11-inch tread. So I'm going to measure out in the direction of the base along the floor, along the ground line, 11 inches for each stair. And if I look at this, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 steps, not counting the porch, but 4 steps down from the porch. So that is our 44 inches, and that should be fine. So I'm going to go ahead and project a line real quick here, not lightly, and then I'm going to try to come as close to 11 inches as I can for each single step. And there's 2, there's 3, and the last one here's 4. And if I measure it, it is 3'8". Okay, so that's our dimension we were working with previously. So I'm going to complete the form at the bottom. So there's our pad at the bottom. I've got a tick mark here, and here for one tread, 2 treads, 3 treads, 4 treads total. Not counting the top one, I'm just counting the stair treads, not the landing piece. Okay, now, how high are the verticals? The vertical risers are 7 inches. Now, just doing some simple arithmetic, there's how many of them? Coming over here again, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 times 7 is 35. We're 1 inch off here. We're just not going to worry about it. At a schematic level, we're not. If we were doing construction documents, we would. But at this level, it's fine. So you're going to have 1 inch off. And if you look at 1 inch on here, it's going to be really hard to find it. So you'll be okay. So what I want you to do is I want you to start at the top and measure down 7 inches. That's one small mark past the 6 inch. And I'm putting in a mark for each one, trying to be as close as I can, because it just always works better when I have a little bit more accuracy. Okay, I don't have to do the last one. Okay, so here are my marks. 1, 2. You can't see them very good. Unfortunately, the video resolution might not be super good, but I've marked them on the vertical corner here. Each one 7 inches up. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to project out a horizontal line lightly from each of those, and it's going to go just over the base. You don't have to go really hard on this. It goes pretty easily. Okay, so now I've gone at a 45-degree angle out to follow this line, just 45, 45, 45, 45 at each of those 7 inch marks. Now I'm going to go vertical with every mark that's here. And I'm going to just take those up and just go a little past the top one each time until I get to the corner and I'll stop. Now, what we've created is a little tiny grid. And I'm going to go over this again, and so you'll see how it works. But basically, that grid gives us a profile to work with for these stairs, and they're at the right angle. We don't have to worry about them turning on some funny angle. They should work just fine. So having said that, I'm going to go ahead and start these stairs. And what I'm doing is I've come down 7 inches from the porch. Here's the porch top. Started there, come down 7. Now I'm going to come across 11. So I'm going to draw that in. Okay, so down 7, out 11. Going to come down another 7, and I'm going to stop when it hits that horizontal line. And I'm going to go out another 11. Down 7, out 11. Hopefully you're going to see this pattern. Down 7, out 11. And then down to the final corner. Okay, so the profile, you can now see the stair profile. Down the first step, out on the tread. Down on the next step, out on the tread. Down on the next step, out on the tread, down, etc. So you can see the zigzag that's going on there. That's the stair profile in this application. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to line them up. So quickly again, we're going to go 7 inches each. I'm going to reverse them this time because it'll go, actually, well, I'm going to just measure them. We could align them and just shoot them across, and I would do that, but I'm just going to measure them again so you're on mark with where we're going with this. So there's 7, and another 7, and another 7. One more. And that should get us here. Okay, so now I'm going to shoot a horizontal line across lightly. Okay, now the next one was 11 each. We need 4 of those, so I'm going to mark them. 11, 11, and last one, 11. Okay, now I shoot a vertical line up lightly so I can just erase these in a bit. Okay, so again, coming down, we're not counting the first landing up at the porch. We're coming down 7. So there's our 7. We're coming across 11, down another 7, providing another tread 11, doing another drop on a vertical for the riser, then doing the next tread, last riser, last tread, and final step down to the ground. Okay, this one and this one should line up. Okay, so we have zigzags for risers and treads. Now we're going to connect the dots. So we'll start at the base. There's the base. And I'm just going to go straight across on an angle at each corner. And that's going to complete the stair, the three-dimensional stair volume. Okay, so that's what they look like. I think if you look a little bit close, maybe you have to freeze the frame a bit. But what we did is we created a grid, and then we just followed the profile, and then we connect the two profiles together, and that's our stair. Okay, so we have stairs in. Now we have to put in the railings. Let's start with the railings that are, I'm just catching up with myself here. Okay, so we've done the steps. Yep, we've connected them all through. Yep, each corner, everything's on a 45. We're good to go. So now what we need to do is we need to put in the railing. So let's start with the porch railing. So railings are provided so people don't fall off and hurt themselves. It's kind of a safety thing. So if you go back to our elevations, I believe they were set at 42 inches or somewhere in that neighborhood. So I'm going to go ahead and line it up with the post and the building wall, and I'm going to measure up from the porch 42 inches, which is 3'6". So I come over here, find 3 foot, and I add the extra 6 on, and that's where that is. I'm going to do the same thing on this side just to double check myself. 3'6", and they should be lined up, and they are. So there we go. Now, that simply represents the top on one side. So we have to, using our triangle, we need to make them the same thickness as the porch supports, the posts. And for this exercise, we're saying they're about 2 inches deep. So what I've drawn here, I'm going to erase some of this stuff again because it's going to get in the way and it's going to get hard to see it, but we'll fix it up in a bit. So I'm going to redraw this real quick. Just take a sec. Okay, so the goal on this is to show the railing, and that railing, that top of that railing is right there. Now we're going to come back to this in a bit. Theoretically, what we want to do is we want to come and get both sides, and it's really mucked up back here because it's hidden behind the roof and it's by the windows. It's all crazy. So we can just actually just come over to this post here, measure up, and project back. So I'm going to do that real quick here so we have that part done. We're going to be 42 inches to there. That's our top. And it lines up with that corner, and I'm just going to stop it there. And I'm going to extend it not far. And there's the top of it. And it needs to be about 2 inches down. I eyeballed that a little bit because I'm in a hurry. Okay, so that's on the other side. So we got both of them placed. Now, we're going to come back to those in just a minute. What I want to do is I want to look at the stair railings. Stair railings are important. By the way, stairs and railings are hugely protected by the building code, and they are strictly enforced. So the sooner that you start understanding the concepts of how stairs work and some of the safety factors around them, the stronger you'll be as a designer. This is our first pass at it, and I know others in other classes will take you down that path. For this exercise, we're going to go ahead and place some railings at the stairs. Again, we're going to muck up some of these lines here because the railings are going to go in front of them. It's just the way it is. So be prepared. You're going to do some erasing. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to find the top rail of the stair rails going down. So if we simply project the same lines through the back of the post, through the front of the post, that's our starting point at the front of the post. We want all of our railings to be at 3'6" as a starting point and an ending point. So to do that, I just projected a line through the post saying, hey, it went right through and it aligns at the front end. So that and that are the starting points. That's the high point. And then if I wanted to include the lower part, I'd put that in, but I'm going to keep that rather light because it's going to disappear on us. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to figure out how do I put the railing in here. Well, remember, the railing is intended to go 42 inches above the surface. And so that would be 42 above this stair nosing, 42 above this stair nosing, 42 above this stair nosing. I think you're getting the pattern here, 42 above that one. So if I come to the end one here and I say, by the way, that needs to be 42 inches above the nosing, well, there's a nosing right at the edge of the porch. So we're counting that one, and it's already listed on that point, on that post, so we're good. So I'm coming to the top tread, or top of the tread of the lowest stair step in the series. So now I'm coming down. I'm going to go 3'6" up, and that's going to put me right there. So that's the tall part of this thing. We're just going to draw a line up to it, and we're going to say that our post is at that point. Now there's some other rules. I'm not going to get into them about how far they have to extend and all that, but I want you to understand how the heights are working. Now, theoretically, if I measured each one of these nosings and went up 36 inches, they would all line up. And we could do that. In fact, I'm going to just test it real quick with one, maybe that first one over here, and I'm going to say, let's test that for the 42 inches. So we go 3 foot and we go 6. Make sure we're close. Okay. We shoot a line, and that line is the top of the railing at the bottom stair and the top of the railing at the post. And son of a gun, it goes right through that line, which just means everything's good. All right, so again, the virtue of an adjustable triangle is that I can set that, and I don't have to measure anymore. I know that that is going to be a consistent placement on this drawing. So I'm going to bring that line down. There's that, and I'm going to add the thickness in. Right there. And I could do the same thing on this side because that I've locked in that angle, and whatever the angle is on one side, it's going to be on the other. Even though I didn't even mark that, I know pretty well where that's going to occur. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this by adding in those pieces. Go ahead and add some thickness in there. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get this piece in, and it comes to here, and now I shoot my lines across. I'll go ahead and get all these corner posts and everything in so that they're done properly. Let's get this guy, comes across here, comes across here, comes to there, that comes down, and that comes down, and that comes down. Okay, so now I have the top railings for all the stairs. Now, one of the problems with railings is that people fall through them. And so the code doesn't like that, and our designs are incomplete if we leave just top rails in, because kids fall through them, dogs fall through them, people lose their footing, and they kind of fall through them too. So we have to put intermediate railings between. Now, for this exercise, we could get very, very complicated and all this, but we're going to set those at 6 inches apiece. And then what we're going to do, we're not going to show thickness. We're going to say they're round, for lack of a better term, because we could get some really small little corner pieces, and it just becomes a big challenge, especially at a 1/4 inch scale. So we're going to say they're round and they're 1 inch or 2 inches, and they should be adequate. So by placing them every 6 inches and making them 2 inches each, then we can solve the requirement of a 4-inch sphere passing through them. And I'm not going to get into all the details. Charlene has a great codes class, and you can take that to understand what's required there. But you're going to say, how do I do that, Secor? So I'm going to start at the top, and I'll just start there. So starting at the top, at the very top of the railing, I'm going to go every 6 inches all the way down. So I can go ahead and do that. I'm going to measure and put a point, a mark, every 6 inches. So there's one, just all the way down. Try to be precise if you can, because the smaller scale requires a bit more. All right, so now I've just lined them up with the edge, and I marked them 6 inches all the way down. Everyone's marked. Now I'm going to shoot a horizontal line across just at the 6-inch point. You'll see what's going to happen in a minute. Okay, so now I've put in a top railing every 6 inches, but the code says it's got to be 4 inches maximum. So I'm going to put in a 2-inch offset below each one of those, and it's going to come out just fine. So I'm just going to mark on this about every 2 inches, and I've been doing it a while, so I'm not going to measure every one. It's just take too much time in the video. I know what 2 inches is, and I'm pretty good at this. After many, many years, I'm going to say I've been at this for, I've been drawing these things for 45 years now. So maybe I know how to do it. Okay, there they are. So they're all in there. And so each one's 2 inches, and 6 minus 2 is 4. That means the 4-inch ball won't go through, and so that works. That works fine here. So we just want to do the same thing on this side. I'm not going to draw it again, but you know what I did. I marked them 6 inches apart. Then under each one, I did 2 inches below, 2 inches below, 2 inches below, and that gave me the thickness of all those rails. And we'll say they're round. So if you don't want to square them off, you can put a little roundy part right there, and that'll make them look just fine. Okay, so now you want to do the same thing on this side. Line it up, shoot it down, 6 inches, shoot the lines. You saw how I did it. Now I'm going to work on the stairs. Stairs are a little funny. So we know that the tops work. So all we really have to do is make sure that all the sub railings align with that. Now, by the way, you can put railings vertically also. In fact, many people see vertical rungs of stair railing, and they work just fine. For this exercise, I think horizontal is a better way to go. And it just makes the drawing look a little bit cleaner. The verticals, I've tried them before, not as good. Okay, so what I'm going to do is do that same trick. I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to mark every 6 inches from the top of the railing. And I'm going to mark them on the post. So every 6 is on the post. That moved on me a little bit there. Let's get back a line. Come on. There we go. And the last one. There we go. All right. So since I know the slope of this, now you could measure to an intermediate point here, like this stair. You could come down to here, shoot a line up, and go 6, 6, 6, 6, 6, 6, all the way down, and then do the same thing here from the top, 6 inch, 6, 6, all the way down, and then shoot those lines. That's how, if you don't have an adjustable, that'll work. You just have to keep it very precise while you're doing it. Again, I'm going to use the tools that I have, and these work out nicely for me. So there is my railing. So now the one thing you're going to notice is that because they're on an angle, everything's going to get really tight. In fact, I'm going to sharpen my pencil so that I can get a more precise line. I'll start at the bottom this time. And I'm going to come back in a bit. Now, you can see what's happening. I'm mucking up all my stair lines, but that's what happens. So, okay, so now, got one more. Okay, so, whew, they're really tight. So precision counts. You're going to need to use a sharp pencil. Otherwise, they'll start doing this and they'll go off at angles and stuff. Be careful. Okay, so now with that, I'm going to come down 2 inches again, just like I did before. And I'm trying to be as precise as I can so that I don't end up with confusing lines. They're already a little bit tight and a little bit weird, but that's just the way it is. Again, your control will make a difference. Okay. Whew. All right, so whatever we did on this side, we're going to do on that side. Okay. Afterwards, you're going to want to go through, and I would suggest before you burn these things in and draw them hard, that you go through and erase all the stair lines that interfere, and then come back in and just add them in at the end. Because as you can see in this illustration, you can hardly see the stair lines here. They're almost invisible because the railings are so predominant. That's just what happens. Lines that are behind, they fall behind. Okay, so there's our stair. You saw the railings. I'm going to take a break now, and we're going to come back, and we're going to do the solarium, and I think we'll get close to wrapping things up. So thanks for your patience. If you have any questions on this, go ahead and just watch the sections again. I tried to be as articulate and as slow in repeating this stuff as possible, but I think you get the gist. We will see you in a few minutes. Thanks, and we'll see you soon. So long.